Well, first of all, I really want to thank you for this session. It's so interesting. It's so needed. We really find it's for the people who have been working with mobility for some years, and especially with rural aspects of mobility. It's so important that we start to think and to start to have these kind of gatherings and different people from different spheres participating. I think it's a crucial work that you're doing, and I'm really grateful to be here. Okay, rural mobility is an Erasmus project, as Pascal said. It's therefore dedicated to trying to work with vocational training and everything related to training the cooperation. Can you go to the next slide, please? It's a partnership of different partners from different parts of Europe that are working in have experience from their before the project, that they're working with rural mobility, or especially are especially motivated by the rural mobility problem. We are trying to identify solutions to improve the mobility in rural areas, and try to generate the courses or the contents and make them accessible to people that we call local development agents. These are key actors which are working already in the rural areas, which are already there, that know what the problems are, but not always manage these kind of concepts, the language and the solutions that are available already and that are coming to solve the mobility problems. No? We have in the consortium the Fenice Foundation from the area of Veneto in Italy. Us as partners, we are in Extremadura, in the southwest of Spain, near Portugal. The ICEM Institute in Germany, who works with climate protection and energy and mobility. The ITS from Romania, which is a national association of intelligent transport systems, with a lot of experience with everything to do with mobility in the whole of Romania. And then there's the Council of Badajoz, which is the province where we are, and which is a pioneer, especially working with electric car in rural areas. Next, please.
Sorry. It seems that it is okay. Is it the one?
Yes. So the first thing we did was try to identify good practices related to, well, we've been working for already 3 years. This is our last year in the project. We finish in August, only this project, because the platform and everything I'm going to be talking about is going to be there and going to stay there. And we're also going to keep working with a network. So it's just, let's say, a formal situation that the project finishes. So this means we've been gathering practices and good and examples that we've also, today has been great to find so many new examples that we didn't know. So although all that is going to go into our database, and so we've been trying to identify what's been happening and what people are doing in a very, as you've been talking already, in a more, let's say, volunteer and let's say one-off situation, and sometimes in very desperate situations in the different parts of Europe. No, so focusing mainly in mobility services for rural areas, and especially in the digital and physical infrastructure for rural mobility. Shared rural mobility solutions, no mobility solutions, e-mobility solutions, and regulations and rural mobility situations and issues that are barriers or that can be improved and around Europe. Our main target is the local development agents. These are people in Spain. We have the figure of the local development agents, and in some countries also. But basically what it means is that they are people who are based at the local and rural areas, working for municipalities or supra-municipal institutions, with local action groups, with councils. There anybody who's there who can manage to, who has some way of influencing the development in the area, And those are the key people we're looking for. They are, we understand, usually quite trained in other climate issues like or waste management or other issues which are already like lightning and things to do with energy, which has been obviously also a process to get them there. But very rarely they manage any of the concepts concerning mobility or even the focus on mobility that is needed. No? Next, please. I think somebody's asking about the no mobility. That's we just call it no mobility, is trying to avoid trying to avoid transport or trying to avoid having to move. If we can manage to avoid also, which has happened obviously a lot with all the working at home and the services which can be digitalized, that's also an important aspect of mobility, trying to decrease mobility at the same time as you make it efficient. No, this is one of the things you've been talking about before, the loop of trying to increase manage finally increasing mobility, try to access the right kind of services. So we're trying to look into also that, trying to see if we can manage to get less mobility needed. Okay, one of the main results of our project is the training. We've organized the training in an e-platform, and it's an e-training, and you can get access freely. No, there's no requirements, and it's all available English, Spanish, Romanian, and Italian. And you go through the different modules and you can manage to get a certificate of the module. It's not yet, it doesn't have any kind of official certification yet, but we're trying to get it in the different countries. And these are the typical contents of the modules. You would have keywords related to the module, then the presentation of what the module is about, different chapters of contents, then you would have a summary, questionnaire, which you would have to fill in, resources that you can use, references that you can go further with, and then you would have a forum where you can debate, where there can be interaction. These are the modules that we prepared. Everything is coming from a handbook, which is as well available both on the platform and on our webpage. Everything is translated in these 4 languages, and these will be the modules as we decided to organize them. We're talking about one module is basically for a compilation of good practices. Another one's concentrated on policies and regulations. The third one is about digital tools available. The fourth is about shared rural mobility. This means car sharing, but also service sharing and all kinds of different modalities of the sharing mobility. The no mobility module I was talking about, e-mobility as in electric mobility of any kind in rural areas. And then we have even a module on e-waste that we foresee could be a problem if mobility is coming. Okay, finally, we would like to, that's what we're doing these days, is trying to set up a network of people who are interested, agents, we call them. It could be any kind of institution, any kind of already existing network, obviously public and private, to try to come together to treat all these challenges and the opportunities that we have that we foresee in these themes. So this would make it a more sustainable project, because we really want to continue working with all this. We've seen a huge potential for improvement in most of the aspects, and a lot of transference of existing technology, improvement of technology, which could be translated also into the new Horizon program needs and calls. So we think we really need to keep working. These are our results. As I said, you have the training course, you have the e-platform, the handbook is in both. And then we have the languages that are covered by the project, which are all the contents available, and everything is free, and it's going to keep like that. Okay, these are our networks. I would recommend, if you can, to subscribe to the newsletter, because we're trying to keep people informed of what's changing, what's new coming up in all these themes. Can you go back one, please, Pascal? I think this is my next slide. Yes, this is, I'm
Okay.
finishing with Bowie Rural.
Okay.
You
If you
asked me
can
to talk.
conclude, so we can discuss with the
I'm
wife.
finishing very
Yes.
quickly. You asked
Thank
me
you.
to please to talk about the Extremadura case of a sustainable mobility plan. I'll be very, very quick. Okay, the plan is just these weeks coming out finally after work which has been going on for more than 2 years. It is very much based in big data, a huge amount of big data gathered by cell phone, which I think has been key for the understanding of the needs of the region. The region, as I say, is in the southwest of Spain on the border with Portugal. It's a very scarcely populated area with a lot of rural situations. And we also had a lot of field work. There's more than 17,000 surveys have gone on, and then we've had more intense interviews for what you have here, the data. You'll have the slides when we share them. Maybe you can go to the next, so I'm quick enough. Okay, so this managed with all this information, which is key to have this kind of plan really working. We managed to understand what are the needs of the population, why they move, when they move, how they move. And that gives us a lot of information of how to improve the behavior. If you want to go to the next. I'll give you a little bit of the results. It's going to be a huge plan because we're trying to gather every finance possible. And this is something I would like to say if I have a minute. We've found that there's a lot of funding for next generation concerning transport and mobility, but it's very difficult to access for small communities. Our region, for instance, 90% of the people and 90% of the municipalities are under 20,000 inhabitants. And that means they cannot reach most of the recuperation funds and the transition funds. So this is an issue I really need to state anywhere I can, because most of the impact and most of the transport emissions come from these areas. And they're areas which have a special, we've already talked about all the special needs. So it's really important that we adapt a little bit how we're going to spend the next of the funding. So anyway, we are working in especially on-demand mobility for public transport and trying to change the trend from the use of individual cars and going into a more, especially a more adapted and flexible public transport. Also using digital platforms to create public-private sharing conditions to be able to really put together any media of transport that can be available. So these would be the keys of our regional plan.
So I just wanted to present 3 examples of what members of the CIPRA network do in France, which I find relate to territorial and social cohesion, which is the topic we're talking about. Just from where I speak, I found it interesting that Patricia mentioned it, is that our the mobility competence in France is also with regions. And so everything that concerns bus and train lines is not in the power of local authorities. So anything I'm going to present today cannot concern trains and buses in any case. So it's all the in-between solutions we've been discussing this morning. So the shared mobility, the active mobility, the on-demand, etc. So three short examples. One is what a Mountain Wilderness, so it's an NGO, is doing, is promoting carless excursions to the mountains. Why does it relate to territorial and social cohesion? Is if we look at the mountain context, services and points of interest are very dispatched. And usually people take their car to go from where they live to the beginning of their hike, or where they glide, or where they climb, and don't stop along the way. So the aim of this campaign is to promote other ways to reach the mountain that integrate all the different points of interest of the territory, such as, well, the obvious restaurants and where to eat, but also cultural venues, and why not traditional, I don't know, you could discover traditional heritage along the way, such as agriculture or other or woodworks, whatever. It's quite interesting because it also has a social component, as mountain sports or outdoor sports are often seen as elitist between the cost of the equipment and the cost of having a car and using it to go to the mountains. And so promoting active mobility enabled Mountain Wilderness France to create partnerships with, for instance, migrant associations or children which are in the hands of social services, so to bring them to the mountains, because it's always public service or shared mobility is always cheaper than having your own car. So the second example I wanted to talk about is what Protect Our Winters does, so another NGO. But the interesting point here is maybe we haven't talked about digitalization until now, but it's the mobility as a service system. So the fact of having one platform where the user can plan, book, and pay for his transport. And this integrates all the different mobility schemes. So from the national train system to the local bus that's been implemented by a local authority. That's interesting because you don't have to go on the different websites and check if it works and how much time you have between this bus and that, and how much time you have to walk, and if there's a solution between the train station where you arrive and the next bus you have to take. It's super practical and super useful. The problem is, of course, you have to pay for that, first of all. It's a software. And secondly, it's the digitization, I never know about this word, digitization of information. And for instance, a MAS platform can't read PDFs usually. It can't know if you don't tell the MAS that your bus only runs during the summer school period or if it works during the evening or not. Everything has to be very clear. And that's a problem. There's a new law in France since 2016, I think, that says that probably later, that all the local authorities have to inform the state about their mobility services, but mountain areas in particular are quite late. And in this case, so this NGO paid for this mobility as a service platform so that people from anywhere in Europe can reach ski resorts without taking the plane or an individual car, because the carbon footprint of mobility is 57% of the ski station's carbon footprint. And also, the same social component of if you don't take a plane or your private car to come to the ski station, you see the rest of the territory and it's less polarized. And the last example, I mentioned it earlier, that BlaBlaCar is quite I don't want to say it has an aggressive marketing strategy, but it's very, they propose a lot of things. And in particular, they have a partnership with a département, so between the municipality and the region in France. And for everyday life trips, so between 5 and 80 kilometers, it especially works for people who go to work and come back. And so the local authorities have engaged, while they pay for the passengers. No, sorry, it's written on the slide. They pay the driver and it's free for passengers. Yeah, so it's quite a big investment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just wanted to mention this in terms of public-private partnerships, that you can have a local authority and BlaBlaCar who manage to find a system where the users don't really see what's behind the system, but they can go to work by carpooling, and it's free if you're a passenger and you actually earn money if you're a driver. Mm-hmm.